First, we'll talk about the history. In the history, we know that microorganisms has been used in food production as far as 2000 BC to help preserve food. However, we learned how microorganisms was responsible for food preservation. Preparation process in 1837 by Louis Pasteur, who discovered yeast purpose in the alcoholic fermentation. Okay, and in the 40s, the concept for the production, the concept is microorganisms main role in the process is to help with metal conversion. For example, gluconostop SP will produce ethanol, acetaldehyde, and others if we treat and lactose within an aerobic environment. In other words, it will remove matter that is susceptible to spoilage into a much more resilient one to prolong shelf life.
Next, I will explain the method of fermentation of yogurts. As we know, making yogurts need microorganisms. Lactobacillus burgerius and Streptococcus thermophilus cooperate to grow until they reach the balanced stable state, then transform to lactose into lactic acid. As Thermophilus is the bacteria that grows the most than L. bulgarius. L. bulgarius will kick off metabolism and grow. It leads to break the protein in milk into amino acid. As Thermophilus will collect nutrients in order to keep growing. Once the milk changes the consistency of the milk that will form into thicker condition, the bacteria strain already exists will inhibit the growth of bacteria.
The process of microorganisms in food production. First, the food made by microorganisms lasts a very long time. Second, good alternative for rapid population growth. Third, it doesn't depend on climate to reproduce. Fourth, the food produced using waste product. Fifth, the food won't run out. Sixth, the food cheap and reliable.
I am going to proceed with the disadvantages of having microorganisms in food production. So, microorganisms like fungus such as molds, yeast, and also bacteria are the main culprits in microbial deterioration in food. Food is spoiled by their growing inside of it and creating compounds that alter its flavor, color, and texture. The food will eventually become unsafe to eat. And then the food can be easily squandered because it is best for human health to avoid consuming food that is over its expiration date. And then lastly, because food lacks flavor, it is not very enticing.
There are a lot of applications of microorganisms in food production, and here are some of them. Microorganisms have been widely used in lactic, propionic, and ethanolic fermentations from time immemorial. It acts as starter cultures to produce fermented foods. Typical starter bacteria includes Lactococcus, Streptococcus, and Lactobacillus, which are usually used in the production of about 2,000 distinct varieties of cheese throughout the world. Other than cheese, a yeast called Saccharomyces is used in the production of a bread, and for yogurt, which is a popular fermented dairy product, is produced by lactic acid bacteria, including Streptococcus and Lactobacillus. Other than that, they are also used in the production of different alcoholic beverages, such as beer and wine, using a variety of carbohydrate substrates. Besides that, microorganisms can be used to transform raw foods into pickles, sausages, sauces, and they can also be themselves to be used as a food source. The most commonly example is fungus, which is commonly used as mushrooms. And the last one is that probiotics are being used successfully with poultry. Probiotics for chickens and other avian species are commonly added to poultry feed or drinking water to help support birds' health, performance, and growth. The general of probiotic microorganisms commonly used for poultry includes Bifidobacterium, Lactococcus, Lactobacillus, Streptococcus, and yeast such as Candida.
Hello everyone, my name is Izdiat. Now let's talk about ethical issues regarding microorganisms in food production. When dealing with microorganisms, they have the potential of being pathogenic. This will lead to worriness of potential consumers as they could risk their health. Even with being sustainable, food safety still will be prioritized first. Also, another ethical issue would be how microorganism-based food would cause religious disputes. Prime example, the fermentation process will cause production of alcohol. As many knows, most religions prohibit the consumption of alcohol as it will intoxicate. Third, people also have their own perspective. There is the potential for disgust when bringing microorganisms into food production, as the product might taste horrible or the whole process is inefficient. Fermentation is one of the techniques within the area of food production. This technique produces 5 times more concentrated carbon emission than transportation can do. There are also multiple cases of death related to concentrated carbon exposure within wine fermentation factories. The farming community also feels threatened as the production of food using microorganisms could lead to reformation of the food industry, which will affect the standard agriculture and the basic staple foods.
Okay, for our conclusion, as our population grows, we will require to find new ways to help with food production to help against increasing population count. Well, the process fermentation is one way to counter that, as this technique produces nutritious food without using large space unlike standard farm. And that's from me.